Hello, everyone, and welcome to our very first episode of the Social Success Podcast, a sweet spot podcast powered by Travel Media Group. I'm your host, Cassidy Quintana, brand ambassador here at Travel Media Group. Super excited to finally kick off this podcast. You know, the reason we decided to start this was because of the success of our social success webinar series that we did last year, and we're still doing to this day. But I was hearing a lot of feedback from people that were watching, and there's a lot of opinions and hot takes about hotel social media, but not nearly enough conversations with people that are actually in the thick of it, working in hotel social media. So I thought, what better way to have Aislynn Roberts, our Enterprise Client Success Manager here at Travel Media Group, as our first guest. She is working with partners and talking about these topics every day. So Aislynn, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Perfect. So kind of before we get into social media, I want people to know what your role is like. So just walk us through kind of what your day-to-day looks like.
Yeah, of course. So as the Enterprise Client Success Manager, I have a unique opportunity to work not only with individual property owners, but I also work with brand team execs and the C-suite for hotel management groups as well. So it's a very interesting role in which you are talking to these executive teams a lot around overall portfolio trends, what you're seeing across the board, industry news, updates, especially if you consider Meta, how many times they're updating,
Right.
You know, making sure that they're in the know of what's happening, but also giving them trend analysis for their portfolio, what's working well, the performance, what we're seeing across the board, versus when you're talking to individual properties, it's very much focused,
Right.
What their individual goals are, what they're trying to achieve, and really honing in on what works well for them. And social media content-wise, the conversation becomes very much focused into their amenities, what their guests are, what type of audience they're looking for, versus with the C-suite and brand, it's overarching. Right. Like, how can you continue to capitalize this across the board?
Yeah, I totally agree. And so when you're having these conversations, what are some of the biggest concerns or reservations that you're hearing the most from these people you're speaking with?
Yeah, it can differ across the board. Most of the time, it really depends on each individual's comfort level, which surprisingly matches throughout the executive team. So whether your individual property level as you go up, dependent on your personal use, your personal comfort with social media, your conversations could be the same. Or it could be vastly different if you're talking to a director of marketing or VP of marketing who's eats, lives, and breathes social media. And you know, those conversations shape a little bit different, but there is a lot of fear of not knowing what to do,
Right.
Not understanding how it works, fear of doing something wrong, or needing to be 100% professional and completely photogenic and photographed and all this stuff. And and that's not necessarily what social media is about. So, and then for the individual property level too, you go into time consuming, right? So they're already in their day-to-day dealing with guest requests, having to follow up with groups that are coming through, dealing with fires that they have to put out, sometimes literally, that are going on at the property level. So to them, like, giving them an extra task of having to think about how to create content can be very much like, whoa, like, I don't want anything to do with it, or hard for them to wrap it around their head, and they just get added stress to their normal day.
Yeah, and I feel like once you have, you know, all that stress of social media, it's easier to just put it on the back burner because, like you said, their day-to-day is dealing with actual guests. You know, they were hired to deal with guests and do things at the property, and social media is usually put to the back because it's like, I can't even think about that right now. So obviously you're having these conversations, you're educating them of the importance. Have you seen that shift with leadership, and how seriously are they taking social media now?
Absolutely. So definitely among the brand teams and the C-suite, when you talk to them, the seriousness of social media has definitely shifted. Mm-hmm. They understand it's important. They know the role it's playing in the traveler's journey and how people are using it to make a booking decision, especially when you're considering the younger generation who grew up on social media. Mm-hmm. So it's a definitely different market. At the individual property level, you do still have some, but some are still a little bit slow to the take and understanding it because they themselves don't use it, or they're only using it to communicate with their friends and family.
Yep.
So they're not using it as a way to plan their trips. But when you get down to it and show them how it's using, or you talk about Booking.com's update, where that's now through Instagram, it opens up the eyes a little bit more. But the C-suite and brand teams definitely understand it. And that's why you're seeing more and more brand initiatives come out regarding social media. And it's the hotels and themselves are almost like at a scrambling, trying to figure out how we're going to meet these brand standards, make sure we're reaching to it, because they're still a little bit scared of how to move forward.
Well, it's a lot, and I don't blame them for being scared because, me and you look at these social media trends all the time, and every week there's something new coming out. So I can't imagine working in a hotel and then having to stay up to date with all of this, and then on top of that, your brand is sending you these requirements. It can be a lot. So kind of when they get past that hesitation and maybe they understand it a little bit more, what's really exciting to them on social media?
Yeah, so sometimes it takes several conversations. It's not like an overnight switch of the mind where they start to see this. So I think what I've learned working especially with brand teams and C-suite is that they generally have two departments for everything, or not several departments for everything. They have an operations team, they have a revenue team, they have sales and marketing. So sometimes those teams don't necessarily communicate with all the trends that they're seeing across the board. So if your operations team handles your reputation and your online reviews, they're not necessarily communicating the feedback and trends that they're seeing that way into like the sales team.
Right.
Sales teams know what they're targeting. They know what their budget is. They know what type of groups they're trying to reach to bring in business into the hotels, but necessarily that's not portrayed across the board. And what I've learned is that when you relate the guest feedback into turning it into an easy social media content strategy, they start to see that connection. So oftentimes, especially at the property level, when I'm talking to individual GMs and they're weary and they don't know how to get started, I leverage their guest reviews. So, your really positive feedback that highlights everything great about your hotel, the amenities your guests really love, that's an easy property feature post. Write something about your shuttle or your complimentary breakfast or whatever the great thing that keeps being highlighted. If you're seeing some gaps, service gaps, whether it's concerns about a specific policy or you had a shuttle but you don't know where to find it in those reviews, that's a great opportunity to do an info share, an update on social media where you're sharing, hey, this is your pickup location for your shuttle, or these are the times. I'd say a really great example is parking. We get a lot of reviews that mention parking. Sometimes it's about, the garage is confusing. I don't know where to find the garage, especially if you're in a downtown market. A simple video of just driving down the street, showing where the entrance to your parking garage is, could do a lot as far as like educating and having that transparency to prospective guests.
I think it's interesting because you mentioned earlier about these hoteliers wanting to be perfect on social media or feeling like they have to have the right shot. They don't have a professional camera, but like you said, social media, it can be super easy. Take the video of driving to the garage, or take a video of your breakfast spread, or show a sunset outside your pool with your iPhone. We have some of the most amazing cameras on our iPhone, and it doesn't have to be rocket science. Social media is all about authenticity, which we'll touch on a little bit. So kind of where are you seeing from your perspective, you're talking with multiple different kinds of hotels. What's the difference between hotels that seem very confident in what they're doing on social media from those that might be a little bit stuck or uninspired?
Yeah, so I think the main thing that separates them is when they realize that their personality matters online just as much as it does in person.
Yeah.
So especially if you're a property who consistently gets praised for your service and your team members and the attention that you do. So that is all their personality that's coming across the board when they're face-to-face and interacting with these guests. That same personality should mimic onto social media. Right. So when you think outside the box, when you keep your true personality into your content, you start to see a little bit more success because you're having fun with it. And that's what social media is. You don't want to be so polished that it becomes a mundane task that you have to do on a weekly, monthly basis. It should be something that's super fun. You think outside the box, but keep true to who you are and showcasing an experience. Because that uncapped storytelling that you have with social media, being able to create this experience and identify that, but also get people to dream about it and wanting to have that experience is ideally where you want your social strategy to be.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of in that same lane, where are you seeing these hotels start to overcomplicate things on social?
Definitely the idea that it needs to be polished, like their website. So, we work with a lot of hotels that don't have the images. They don't have a professional photographer that's going to come out, or they only have the images that are on their website. And those are great images to have, but it doesn't have to be polished. Like you said, it could be a cell phone. You just go out, take a photo. I'm sure you have team members. Every property has team members that have cell phone, or maybe you've had to tell them, hey, don't be on your phone so much at work. It happens here.
Yeah.
So, when that happens, if you kind of create this interest, or like, hey, if you're walking around the property on your break, or if you have a restaurant and the chef makes you something to eat for lunch, take a quick photo of that dish, use it for your social media content. So it doesn't necessarily have to be super duper polished in order to be able to have success with it. But the more content, the more image and video you have, the better to keep your feed fresh and get people to stay connected with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And then kind of on the flip side of that, where are you seeing hotels underestimate? A lot of the things you're having to do is convince these hoteliers that social is important. A lot of the individual properties are not seeing it yet. So what are you telling them that they're underestimating of the, potential they could have on social media?
Yeah, they definitely underestimate the value of it. So when you talk about social media, especially if you're dealing with maybe the revenue team or director of finance for C-suite and the brand teams, they are all numbers based. So they expect, hey, we're doing a marketing strategy. We have this in place. What am I getting in return from it? And I understand it. I get it. Yeah. But social media doesn't operate that way. So they're truly underestimating the value of the reach associated with it versus the cost. So it's not necessarily about what I'm getting physically in return for it. It's the potential, the longevity. So you have this ability to tell your story in a way that nobody else can tell it.
Yeah.
No advertising campaign that you do can tell a story the way a social media content strategy can do. And it's the ability to connect with people at every point in the traveler's journey, because people are on social media looking at things in different ways for different reasons at different times during their day. So it doesn't matter what you post, you're targeting everyone during that piece and during their journey.
Yeah, and I think it's important, we hear the ROI of social media all the time, and it's not usually a physical number. You don't see that. Maybe you see it through engagements and your followers and clicks and things like that. But for me, I said it on my webinars before, I went to a resort last year in Mexico, and I felt like I knew everybody that worked there because of their social media. And that's not something I actively told them, but I was so comfortable there already because of the things they were posting on social media. So if we can get that message across and hotels can tell their story and show their personality, like that's what matters most to these guests on social media. And that there is no number that can show that. Obviously, them returning is a sign that it's working, but it's hard to give those exact numbers. And, some people believe it and some people don't. So we just keep preaching that same message. But so when we start to work with these properties and we're talking through their strategy, maybe they're starting from zero or they have some type of presence, how important is creativity versus consistency?
Yeah, so that's a really great question and an interesting topic, because you have a lot, like when we talk about people who are scared of it, it is that creativity. They don't know where to start with it. They don't know where to go with it. So, but when you take the concept of consistency and you talk about SEO and like all the stuff that's going into social media now and the searchability of it, it's really what consistency that drives content and drives performance. So, I mean, if you think about it, a lot of people get stuck on, viral's the only thing that's successful. If you talk to anyone that's went viral, I guarantee you, most of the time the answer is going to be, it was a fluke.
Right.
They didn't plan it. It's not something that they knew what they were doing. It's something that resonated with a lot of people and it took off. But they got to that point because they had a consistent lead into that. They were consistently posting. So when that one viral moment went out, then people looked at their past content, decided, oh, this is a cool page. I'm going to stick around and follow along with it. So, the concept is you need both. You definitely need both.
Sure.
But consistency is what drives. And if you to kind of peel it back even further, we talk about sports. We both like sports, right? So think of your favorite sports team. You've been to some games, right?
Of course.
Right? Do you follow them on social media?
Of course.
Right. So the experience you see on social media is the same experience you get at the game.
Yeah.
That's what social media is about. You're selling an experience. It's not, I mean, you are selling your property, but it's more important to sell the experience that a traveler can have, to have that connection and be able to like, hey, I can picture myself here. So when I am in town, whether it's 2 months from now, 6 months from now, I'm going to think about that property when I'm planning my trip.
I love the sports analogy. I think that's a good way for people to understand, you know, when we talk about hotel social media, it's easier to see it when you can compare it to other industries, like a sporting event, for example, or maybe you're going to a music festival or any of those things. They're all experiences. Sometimes we think of hotels as just somewhere to lay my head at night. And of course, at the end of it, that is the most important thing of why someone's staying at a hotel. But if you can make the full experience something that they remember, it's more than just somewhere they laid their head at night. So kind of shifting gears a little bit, you know, we talk about authenticity on social media. Now we're seeing an overwhelming amount of AI kind of content. So how do you think this is going to play into hotel strategies as we move forward?
Yeah, so I do think there is a good way to use AI. I think there's definitely a use case where AI does benefit and can help you a lot. But to your point, you know, people are definitely craving authenticity. So they can spot when it's fake really, really quickly. I mean, it's all over now in my feed where it's like, tell me your post is AI without telling me it's AI, right? That's a constant thing. And every single post has hundreds of comments on it because people can feel it. They want the real stuff. They want the authenticity. And the reason they want that goes back to they're trying to have an experience, right? They want a true experience of what they can do at your property, in your area, what they can go and see, things to do. So there is a way that you can leverage AI and think about it, maybe not do the whole thing AI because it is spottable, right? People can see it. But think about if you're a GM and you know you don't have a lot of photos. You have only like your empty professional photos for your website, which are great for your website. But think about how you can take that, pop it into an AI image editor, say add 2 guests checking into my property. And now you have this great lobby photo with actual people in it, which is a true experience. Right. If I see that, I'm going to see the same thing when I walk in. And it enables and furthers the reach and performance of that content because now people are envisioning there. Same thing for our pet-friendly hotels. I work with a lot of pet-friendly hotels who love to promote that, but very little of them have images of actual pets in their property. And it's something that I've always recommended. If you have someone coming in, ask them if you could take a photo of their pet. And it's still one of the last things. But imagine, again, throwing it into an AI image tool and you just say, add a pet in this guest room, whether it's on a complimentary pet bed that you have or it's on the actual bed in your room. And just now me as a pet owner, I don't have to worry about leaving my dog behind when I want to go and stay because I can see, oh, she'll be comfortable here.
Yeah. I think it's going to be important as we continue to head through this year, and we're already seeing OTA integration with AI in Instagram and TikTok and being able to create your whole itinerary on Instagram to really focus on what the gray area of AI is on social media, right? Because what you said, the examples you gave are a great way to use AI to show a real experience that could happen. But if you're using AI to generate images that are not possible, things that you don't have on your property, maybe you want to expand how big your gym is or what the equipment you have in your gym is, that's something we want to stay away from. So it's going to be important. I'm sure both of us are going to be watching this year how AI continues to evolve and how social media platforms are evolving with it and what people can post and what works and what doesn't work. So kind of as we move into this year, what do you think these hotels should be paying more attention to on social?
Interactions, right? So, and that's actually more of a focus for social media too. Like they're updating their algorithms to focus on reach and true, real interactions. So that's going to be really big, but not only just with social media, also in person. So how are your guests interacting with your property, with your staff, with your amenities, what they're using the most? Because that's going to be an easy way to develop and fill in your calendar for most of the year. If you have a set schedule of content that you know, like I want to cycle through a fitness center post every month because it's a highlight. We have a 5 Peloton bikes or whatever equipment that your guests really love about you. It makes it easier to fill those small gaps with your creative moments.
Yeah.
So if you strategize on your consistent right off the bat and every once in a while I'm going to do this and this, then those creative moments come in those small moments. But online, interactions present a little bit differently. So it's comments, it's shares, likes, post reactions. And in those moments, you get interactions throughout every piece of the traveler's journey. So knowing what they're interacting with the most, is it a static post? Is it a video? Is it a reel or a carousel image? And that could change throughout the year, and it can change year over year. So it really just depends on what travelers are doing, but knowing how they're interacting with it, understanding that, and being able to adapt to it is going to be key to be able to continue to see performance, have success with it, and be able to promote your property the way you want.
Yeah, and I think it's important. I know our team here at TMG is constantly looking at those reports and seeing how things are performing. So it's important for hoteliers that may not be working with us to set a reminder on your calendar. Every month I'm going to take a look back at our interactions, see what kind of content was performing, what kind of content maybe flopped, and we won't do more of that and we'll do more of this instead. And paying attention to those things and paying attention to when they're interacting with it, especially we're heading almost into spring break season, and then it'll be summer, and what content is going to resonate with those guests at that time is important. So if you're not taking a look at your interactions, you're just posting blindly, right? You're not understanding what your guests actually want to see and what they're enjoying to see. So you personally, Aislynn, what's exciting you most about where Hotel Social is headed?
There are a lot. So I do like that social is becoming the new search. And I have an exercise to challenge everybody that's kind of listening here. But, when you take into the fact that social is the new search, how they're using it, how the journey is becoming more integrated because of the social search, you'll have a better idea of what strategy to put in place. And we all use social media. I don't think I've met anybody that doesn't use social media in some manner. So when you're on social media, there's many moments where you're just scrolling aimless. It's mindless, right? Yeah. You're going through it. You're just going through. Maybe it's right after work. You're decompressing and you're just scrolling through things. Me, that's reels. I scroll through a bunch of reels. And if sometimes it's a quick pass rate, sometimes I watch the whole thing. Other times I'm searching with purpose and I'm scrolling with purpose because I have attention behind it, whether it's I want to go to a new restaurant, so I'm going to look them up, see what their menu items are, or if I'm looking for a hotel and I want to see what's happening there. So those are purposeful scrolls. I'm actually trying to find something about it. So with that in mind, that's a search engine tool, right? I'm purposely scrolling for something, try to find things. So one thing that I find that's super enlightening when you kind of look at this is if you do sort of like a focus group. Ideally, non-hospitality people, because as hospitality people, we're a little bit more in tune, so we might go a certain way with it. But, if you do both and an integration of both, but your family, your friends, ask them, let's plan a trip to Denver, Colorado, and find out where they start.
Yeah.
You'll be surprised, I think, that most of them will start on social media now. And it's because that mindless scrolling has created an algorithm for them that when they do Denver, Colorado, they're going to get videos of things to do in Denver, the best restaurants in Denver. They're going to get all this stuff. So now they're like, okay, this might be an interesting place. I want to go here. And then they go to search for rooms, hotels, rates. Now is your property meeting the amenities that I require or the things that I need? And then it goes into, you're moving more into that booking. So just a fun little exercise. I find it super fun when I do it, where they start off. And it's just showing that social media is moving into this more frame and it's getting far more focused with search and trip planning.
It's not even getting just more focused on the platform itself, but we're seeing even on Google, there's a tab at the top that now says short form video. So if you click that, that's social media videos. So we're going to see that continue to evolve into Google and other actual search engines. But I love the term social as a new search. I feel like I've said that a million times and I preach it on our webinars all the time, but it's true. And it's just going to continue. Again, like I mentioned, those OTA integrations, being able to do everything in one platform. I'm sure once we see the development of that, eventually there'll be a way for hotels to add their booking right into the platform too. And that's exciting, right? That's exciting. And it's exciting that you can make it that easy and you can share your entire experience before a guest even stays with you. So these are the conversations I want to continue having with people. But Aislynn, thank you so much for joining me. I know we're going to continue to watch these trends and talk about these things throughout the year. But thank you for joining me on this first episode. It's been a blast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And thank you everybody for listening. And we'll see you next time on the Social Success Podcast.